What's up, y'all? Sparta here. For this video, it's going to be iPhone 12, base iPhone 12. Obviously, it's not the Pro or Pro Max because it's not the frosted glass back finish, it's the glossy back. And honestly, I do prefer this black over the graphite a little bit, mainly because it's a deep black. Obviously, it's a fingerprint magnet. That's just something that you're going to get when you have a glossy back. But it reminds me very much of the iPhone 4, which I do have one, but it's not here. But it is a very old one that just doesn't work anymore. So I think it does work. I just don't have the old 30-pin connector for it. So it's basically dead. The only difference is it's all black frame, black back and all that, whereas the iPhone 4 had the silver frame. And you know, while the iPhone 4 had its antenna problems, it was a looker of a phone for the time. So why iPhone 12? You would think for me that I would prefer going with, say, well, all these boxes fall, a Pro Max or anything of that nature. Um, and I'm going to say this right off the bat. I've made my review of the 12 Pro Max. I've deeply tested the 12 Pro. I had a little bit of hands on with the 12 Mini, that elusive phone that people said, oh yeah, I totally want that, but nobody really bought. um, it was a good phone. I'm not trying to say that the 12 Mini was bad. It actually had pretty good battery life. People were like, oh, it's going to have terrible battery life. It actually didn't have that bad battery life. It actually kept up with my S20 FE, which kind of would shit on the S20 FE more than it would be a bad point for the 12 Mini, but regardless. But why this? I really don't care about telephoto, especially now when it's just basically just a telephoto that's a 3x zoom, but it crops to 10x and it doesn't look all that great. After using the S21 Ultra for so long, I just feel that that kind of zoom is just not great anymore. It just doesn't really look all that nice. And I prefer the wide angle, and this phone has the wide angle over the telephoto, and I'm fine with that. Again, I just prefer the design. Obviously, I would have preferred a matte black finish. I prefer the frosted glass mainly because it's not a fingerprint magnet, and it's not as bad to damage. But it's just something that I felt that I'll compromise solely for the fact that I just like this deeper black. It just looks better to me personally. Um, that, and also the frame isn't that that stainless steel crap that people like to gush over, but it's such a fingerprint grease magnet. Like, it's so terrible. Like, it's not like the V10, where the V10, yes, the sides would get a little bit fingerprint smudgy, but it was a brushed stainless steel. So you didn't get it on the main frame. You would get on the main frame, the main sides of the frame that you would see. You would get it on the very edges that you would hold. So it wasn't nearly as bad as, say, the iPhones, especially if you got it in the gold color or the white color. It just looks bad. And to me, I much prefer this more regular aluminum frame where, yes, it's not as flashy, it's not as cute, but it's not as fingerprint smudgy. um, and overall, you get the same capabilities that you get on the 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. The 12 Pro Max obviously has that larger 12 megapixel sensor that's better for low light. But due to the fact that I don't really like the pictures or the video in low light situations on iPhones anyway, I don't care. Like I've detailed in plenty of videos, the lens dots and all that stuff is just terrible. The frame rate in low light situations is just terrible. I just don't really feel Apple nailed that at all. And for people to be like, Apple just nailed this. No, it was bad. And comparing it to a V60 at the time, even the S20 FE, it just wasn't up to par to what I would want out of a $1,200 phone. I think the 12 Pro Max was, and $1,000 phone that the 12 Pro was. This probably will still have the similar issues, mainly because of the lens design. As you guys can see, it jets out ever so slightly. It's not nearly as terrible as the 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max, where the camera glass. I'm gonna have to use manual focus. That's another boon of reflective glass backs, is that the phone or the camera in general will try to catch what's on the reflection and not what I'm trying to actually get. It doesn't jet out nearly as terribly as the 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. So to me, this is totally fine. I'm going to have to test this, but overall, this is more just I want a reference iPhone, and the regular 12 to me on paper is totally fine. I don't necessarily feel it compromises on much. Like, obviously, like it, you could use the same cases for the 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. Like, they're interchangeable. I'm pretty sure they have the same battery size. I think this just has a nearly 1080p display. I think pretty much like the 12 Pro. So overall, I do feel they're pretty much the same in terms of that. You still get the same OLED. You still get all of that juicy stuff. Still get the same A14. Nothing has really changed in terms of that. But overall, this is definitely going to be a problem. I do feel like this is going to be an interesting phone to look at. Especially if I compare it to, like, say, an S21 Ultra. I don't really need to compare it to the V60 because the V60 does indeed will have its advantages over it, but there are some things I'm seeing with the S21 Ultra that I do want to compare to other phones other than the V60. And what better way than to do it with an Apple phone that's decent. Like, it's not like, I don't think Apple is doing like weird throttling stuff like they're doing with the base S21. Like, I don't think they're doing that when it comes to the 12. Maybe with the 12 mini, who knows? But honestly, we'll see what happens here. I'm gonna do some gaming on it. It's just a 64 gig variant, so it's not gonna have every single game that I have, but it's just gonna be interesting to see what it does. I also have an iPad Pro 2020, so I'm gonna try to see if that can actually beat the phones that the iPad Air couldn't best. So yeah, we'll get into that. But overall, this is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for support. Hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. It's my last day of work, so it's technically my Friday, or whatever time of day it is in your area. Have a good one.